Broadsword calling Danny Boy.
Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Another game of interplanetary I Spy going on here. Right, today I was sent a link to this image by a guy called the Ghost Boxer from YouTube. Very many thanks to him for this image link. Here's the link here. It's Sol 753, and here's the information at the bottom. It's the Front Hazcam right B. And this is a very recent image, only taken a few days ago, I think, this one. Yeah, Sol 753. So the link will be in the description as usual. Now, there are a couple of things I'd like to say about this image before we start. A lot of people have been posting comments saying that the rover is on Earth somewhere, like in a desert, like in Saudi Arabia, or in the Gobi Desert, or in Arizona, or somewhere like this, right? Well, I don't think so. Mainly because we have, you can just about make out in this image here that there's a kind of round smudge here and a round smudge there. These are the two moons of Mars. I think this one on the left is Phobos, as it's not completely round. Phobos is a kind of like a potato-shaped object and is not completely spherical. And Deimos up here is a bit rounder. So this can't possibly be on Earth because there are two moons. Now, Earth only has one moon, and it looks very different to these. There's also what looks like seems to be a UFO here. Now, this may turn out to be an image artifact because I think this has appeared in exactly the same spot near the top of the image here in a number of images, and it seems to have reappeared recently. I have also in this image. Now, this was taken from Sol 399, same camera. And the same object appears just here. I'll show you it in the viewer here. This is the more recent one. This is 753, and if you look up here, you've got this kind of metallic-looking object here that looks like a UFO. There's Phobos to the left, that smudgy thing there, and there is Deimos up here near the center. Now, if you look at the previous image, which was taken hundreds of days earlier, you can see it's in the same spot. This little thing here, this looks like an aircraft or some sort of UFO. And there's Phobos again, lower down in the sky. Deimos isn't in this image. Okay, so when you compare the two, if I keep them the same, if you concentrate where my pointer is there, and I'll flip between two images, and you'll see that the object is in the same spot exactly between the two images. Now, these were taken a long time apart, so this must be a lens artifact or something to do with the imaging equipment. The camera's got something in it or on it that is causing interference. Okay, so I just thought I'd clear that up. Lots of people have done videos on this supposed UFO here, including me, and I'll put a retractive statement in that video or under it to say that this is most likely an image artifact. It may not be, but it does seem almost impossible that something would appear in the same spot again. So it must be an image artifact. Right, let's crack straight on with it. This source image is the one that I was sent, and the thing we're going to be concentrating on in this video is this little guy here, right near the center of the image, just below center. There seems to be a little bird. Okay, so I've got it up in PaintShop Pro here, and we'll have a closer look at what may or may not be a bird. It does look like a bird. Doesn't mean it is a bird, but it does look like one. Now, of course, this is pixelated. I've zoomed in quite a long way here. I think the image size. Let's have a look at the image size. Now it's 200 dpi. And it's 1280 by it's 1024 by 1024. So this is about a megapixel. This image, so it's not great in quality. It's in grayscale, but luckily this is fairly close, so we can just about get enough detail out of this thing to have a look at it. If it was any further away, it would be pretty useless. But it's right between the tracks or the wheels of the rover here. You've got the wheels either side, and this is a tiny little thing, probably only a couple of inches long, if 1.5, 2 inches maybe, something like that, judging by the size of the wheels here. So it's very small, and it's kind of sat on the edge of these rocks here, and it's looking right at the camera. It's got an eye here. So I'll show you the enhancements I've done. Here's a raw clip. Now I've enlarged this, which I've used a bilinear enlargement, which gets rid of a lot of the pixelation, and I've enlarged it and increased the DPI from 200 to 2000. So this smooths the image out quite well, and this is how I get clearer images than a lot of people. So if you get that right from the start, then it does really help. So there he is, just here. You can see like a white beak there and an eye. I can just about make out the tail here, and there seems to be a foot or toes sticking out down here. So I'll show you the enhancements. Let's go to, which one first? We'll go to this one. Now I've drawn around it and enhanced it. Now I've just selected it, drawn around it, and then changed the colour temperature of the selection here. And you can see I've upped the contrast a bit as well. You can see an eye and a beak, a tail, and what looks like a foot here, and a wing here. And it looks like a typical, what you'd probably call a sparrow on Earth, or some similar type of bird, like maybe like a finch or something like that. But it looks very much like a sparrow. Now the interesting thing about this is that there was a guy who was all over the press a while ago. I'll show you some news items here. Now there was a guy, a whistleblower, back earlier in the summer, who was all over the press and all over YouTube, saying that he'd been on Mars for 17 years, working on a secret military base. This is before it's news.com here, but this was in all the papers, not all of them, but a lot of the papers, and there are videos all over YouTube. This is the one to watch, probably the Skype interview. Now the quality of this video isn't great, but you can get a gist of it. I think the camera on his laptop isn't very good, the webcam, so it's quite poor quality, low res, but you can get the gist of it. And you may want to fast forward it to sort of about 40 minutes or 35 minutes, because he does talk about a lot of uninteresting stuff as well. But he does, when he gets into it, he does mention the fact that now this may not be true. This guy may be disinformation, but he has been fairly consistent in his story. So that leads me to believe that he may be telling the truth. And also, when you look at the video, he doesn't seem to be touching his face much, or showing signs of lying like a lot of people would do in that sort of situation. Now, one of the things he did mention is that if he was on Mars, but he claims to have been on Mars for many years, working up there. And one thing he did mention is that he was asked if there are any creatures up there, and his answer was that there are small creatures on the surface, like small rodents, lizards, and very small birds, and small creatures on the surface. Also, low-lying vegetation. What I think he means by that is stuff like moss and lichen and that kind of thing. Now, a lot of us have already found that in the last year or two. A lot of us have found vegetation and small creatures like rodents and small lizards and little snake type thing, sidewinding snakes and stuff like that. A lot of us have found these things. Some of them are quite clear. I have a number of these things. So he may well be telling the truth, because what he is saying does seem to have already been backed up by some of the stuff that us researchers have found. So that was interesting. Now, I can't possibly verify what he said. I can't vouch for that. But it does seem to tie in with what we've got on the ground here. So the ground truth here does seem to dictate that in some areas there are little plants and things like moss and lichen growing on these rocks. And they change colour seasonally, which means they must have some sort of growth on them. And this is a little sparrow, and he did mention the word sparrow, I think, in the interview. So here we have a sparrow. So maybe the guy is telling the truth after all. I mean, I'll be reluctant to even mention this guy because I don't really know. But here we have it. Let me sharpen that up a little bit for you. And of course, this is very, very small, so it's never going to get brilliant, and the image will break up if I over sharpen it. But you can see what looks like a wing just here, a small wing, quite a distinct eye here with a little reflection in it, a little black eye with a white bit there, and a little pointy beak. Now, what would a bird, if this is a bird, what would it eat? Now, these particular types of bird on Earth are insectivores, and they eat insects, small insects like flies, mosquitoes, that kind of thing. Now, are there any insects on Mars? I think there probably are, and I did do a video recently, which I've got up here somewhere. Here it is. Mars Insect Swarm Curiosity Rover, UFOs, Birds or Flies. Now, in this video, you've got the rover, and it's sort of parked right near the bottom of Mount Sharp. And at the bottom of Mount Sharp, we have a riverbed, which may well be very damp, and there may even be water in it in places. And in this video, the rover looked like it's managed to disturb a whole bunch of insects which were near this riverbed, which is probably still very damp, giving them a source of drinking water. And also, insects do like to breed and lay their eggs in water, and their larvae hatch out in water, so this may well be the case. So we may have a possible food source for this bird. So that kind of adds a bit of credence to the bird find, I think, because they eat insects. So we have a food source, we have a possible source of water at the bottom of Mount Sharp, and this is not far from Mount Sharp, this little guy. If I show you the source image again here, there's Mount Sharp in the background. We are literally only meters away from the bottom of Mount Sharp there. This beyond this ridge here is the riverbed, and in some areas this is this is 4.5 kilometers deep, and there do seem to be some areas that show signs of geothermal activity, and there may well be groundwater coming up through the ground into this area. In some of the images you can see what looks like steam rising. So I'm pretty sure there's some water down there, and some of it may be liquid. So there we have it. I've done a few enhancements here. I've done a few clips. I'll put these all in the end of the video anyway, so you can see them again. It helps if you draw around the thing here, because it's obviously very well camouflaged, like a lot of the creatures would be, like they are on Earth. Desert creatures rely on camouflage. There isn't a great deal of cover for them out in the open, so they do rely heavily on camouflage, desert creatures. So I would expect any creature on Mars, especially smaller creatures, possible smaller creatures like birds and reptiles and rodents, all to have very, very good camouflage, much like the gopher or rabbit or whatever it was that was found, I think by Monty Williams or whatever, a year or two ago. There's all sorts of rodents and small creatures that I've found. One or two of them may still be alive. Most of them look dead or freeze-dried or fossilized or whatever, but some people have found what could be construed as living creatures moving across the surface. Some of them very quickly. The Sidewinder guy, I've got a snake that looks like a Sidewinder, very, very shiny snake. There's the shiny lizard that many people have published. Lots of people have found what could be construed as living creatures on the surface, but I'm still a bit doubtful whether they are alive. But this guy I was impressed with, because he seems to be looking right at the rover, and just sat there, right between the wheels, probably petrified. I mean, in a psychological sense, of the rover. And small creatures often rely on staying dead still, as many creatures do. If they're spotted by a possible predator, they will actually rely on their camouflage completely and just stay extremely still and not move. This is one of the few things they can do to stay alive. So there we have it. The eye to me was pretty convincing, and the beak. But it may just be a rock that happens to be shaped like a bird. It could even be a carving of a bird, or it could even be sort of petrified or fossilized. But who knows? Who knows, guys? Thanks to the Ghost Boxer for sending me this image. I think I'll call it a day. There's not much more detail I can drag out of this one because it's very, very small. Let's have a quick look at the source image again. There he is. And we have the two wheels here, front wheels or back wheels either side. These are probably the back wheels actually. and he's right in between the middle, right there. There may be a few other things in here as well. I haven't done a real proper scan of this image yet, but there may be quite a few more things. But it's very hard to tell with these low-res images, and it's only when stuff's up real close like this that you're going to get any joy with it, really. But there's Mount Sharp in the background. Phobos here, Deimos there. This is Mars, not Earth. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you soon.